In the 90s, a Gracie and his pupil brainstormed the idea of War of the Worlds, a tournament where the deadliest martial artists from various disciplines battled to prove which form of combat was the cream of the crop. The tournament became popular as the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which initially took off, then struggled with sanctions and almost went bankrupt before a young man in his 30s took the helm and turned the wheels of fortunes, establishing the promotion into a $10 billion empire. The big question is, how? The story of the UFC starts with Helio Gracie, the revolutionary who molded BJJ into a discipline that helped weaker practitioners overcome hulkish adversaries. Helio's beloved son Rickson further catapulted the gentle art of twisting limbs into the stratosphere by destroying Valduro rivals.
É o mais forte, é o mais treinado, é o mais bem preparado, tem uma mente boa e por isso ele é, como os outros, invencível.
Helio's other son, Rorion, was more of a tutor than a competitor, and he spread BJJ's wings to North America by settling in the United States in 1978 and burning the midnight oil to spread the Gracie gospel to every nook and corner of the country. That's when one of his students, Art Davie, who had eagerly absorbed the legendary tales of the Gracie Challenge, advised Rorion to do something similar in the States.
Gracie Camp, you've probably heard about them. They have the Gracie Challenge. Now I'm looking for you to come on board. So
Helio was the mastermind behind the Gracie Challenge, an innovation extended to top fighters from other disciplines for a battle for supremacy. Rorion vied with Davie's ideas and immediately announced War of the Worlds, later named the Ultimate Fighting Championship. The first event of which took place in November of 1993, where 8 men from different martial arts disciplines battled for ultimate glory. The winner was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu thanks to Helio's son, Royce, who submitted Art Jimerson, Ken Shamrock, and Gerard Gordiot to win the tournament without breaking a sweat. It was a total blowout for BJJ and one that elevated the discipline to the pinnacle of fame. Royce won 3 out of the first 4 UFC tournaments and had everyone questioning, how is a mid-sized man like Royce able to dominate absolute muscle sharks? Soon, people started showing up to BJJ gyms to big numbers to try and find out answers to the BJJ puzzle. The early years of the UFC saw some of the OGs of the fight game battle it out in often one-sided, no-holds-barred, and open-weight contests. While it was exciting for a few, the format, the rules, and the violence that unfolded in the glorious octagon infuriated many, most notably Senator John McCain, who called the UFC human cockfighting.
Martial arts fighting, there was people knocking them other down, sitting on top of them and smashing them in the face. There was no referee, there was nothing. It was terrible.
The public shame led to increased scrutiny and calls for regulation, and by 2000, the UFC was struggling financially, with nobody but a young and passionate combat sports aficionado in his 30s wanting to help. The person was none other than Dana White, who used to manage Tito Ortiz back in the day.
Good. Cool. Awesome. You ready? Yep. So they were both receptive and they both understood why they were here.
And had gotten the wind of the UFC's troubles from its owner, Bobby Mirovitz.
I called Lorenzo and Frank, they're in Miami, right? And I said, I just got off the phone with Bob Meyerowitz. He just fucking freaked out on me, man. He basically said, there's no more money with the UFC. He's probably gonna go BK, blah, 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 blah. I think we could buy the UFC and I think we should do it.
Born and raised in Connecticut, White's passion for boxing and MMA drove him to Las Vegas, the fight capital of the world, where he befriended Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta, scions of wealthy casino-owning families. The friendship soon turned into a cordial business partnership when Dana convinced the Fertitta brothers to purchase the UFC and let him handle the rest. The casino moguls had a ton of wealth and burning passion for combat sports, but even their admiration for human cockfighting wasn't enough for them to invest in a sinking ship. Dana was stubborn, and after a series of meetings, discussions, agreements, and whatnot, he eventually managed to have his way like he always does. In 2001, the Fertitta brothers along with Dana bought the UFC for $2 million. The Fertitta brothers created Zuffa as a parent entity for the UFC and appointed Dana White as its head honcho, and the three put their hearts and souls into monopolizing combat sports for eternity.
And 2 months later, 3 months later, whatever the time, Lorenzo ends up buying the UFC. Him and Frank call me over and they're like, we want you to be the president of the company, we want you to run it.
The owners invested millions to clear debts and fund operations, and Dana flew to every corner of the United States and beyond to market the UFC and mixed martial arts as a legitimate sport. The trio soon cleaned up MMA's human cockfighting image by getting the sport regularized and sanctioned. Rules were changed, weight classes were added, fighter safety was prioritized, and the UFC started to swell one step at a time. Then came the promotion's big break in 2004 in the form of a deal with Spike TV for The Ultimate Fighter, a reality TV show where the next generation of fighters showcased their skills. The show became a hit within years, producing legends like Tony Ferguson, Nate Diaz, and Kamaru Usman, among others. But despite the gradual rise of the UFC and the popularity of TUF, uncertainty loomed over the promotion's future, until Forrest Griffin vs. Stephan Bonnar happened. The fight between the two light heavyweight legends was a slobber knocker that blew the UFC's ratings off the charts. The promotion earned a new deal with Spike TV, The Ultimate Fighter continued, and most importantly, non-fight fans started realizing that the MMA was more than just two humans fighting, it was an art. In 2007, the UFC hit the jackpot when it acquired Pride, one of its biggest rivals, leading to an influx of legendary phenoms into the UFC like Mauricio Rua, Quinton Jackson, Alistair Overeem, and Wanderlei Silva, among dozens of others. The UFC's division started housing stars like Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, Chuck Liddell, BJ Penn, and Brock Lesnar. More countries started to have their representatives competing against the best fighters in the world, and each event started to bring in more numbers. From 2007 to 2010, the UFC was the most powerful entity in the world of MMA, but it still faced external threats in the form of world extreme cage fighting, where legends like Jose Aldo and Dominic Cruz mesmerized fight fans with their magical performances. At the time, the UFC didn't have smaller divisions like bantamweight and featherweight, so it acquired WEC and added more stars to its already growing and glowing roster. In 2011, the UFC eliminated another strong rival in the form of Strikeforce, acquiring it for $40 million. Although the promotion functioned independently for another 2 years before it was folded, but that's not the interesting part. The more important detail in this story is the UFC's inclusion of women's divisions, starting with bantamweight. All thanks to judoka turned MMA legend Ronda Rousey, who was tearing through competition in Strikeforce. A year before adding the women's bantamweight division in the UFC, Dana had said that women would never compete in his promotion.
When are we going to see women in the UFC, man?
Never.
Anytime soon? Never.
A year later, Dana changed his mind because Rousey's popularity and marketability were too business savvy for him to uphold his deals.
I mean, some of these guys still live in the 1920s. The way that they talk about women, these women deserve to be here. They're great athletes and they deserve to be here.
Rowdy Ronda continued her reign of terror in the division until the UFC hit the jackpot in the shape of Conor McGregor, a star unlike anyone the world of combat sports has seen.
Dana! 60 G's, baby!
The Irishman entered the featherweight Shark Tank in February 2013,
Basically, someone chasing their dreams is what inspires me.
and within 3 years, he beat some of the world's top featherweights, including Jose Aldo, to win the title and expand the UFC's fan base worldwide.
I said it last year, we're not here just to take part, we're here to take over.
McGregor's paralyzing persona and his trash-talking captivated fans.
On the count of 3, I want everyone in this arena to scream at the top of your lungs, the Mayweathers.
The Irishman's ability to move the needle gifted the UFC its big break, and Mystic Mac, Dana, and the Fertitta brothers made a ton of money together. The UFC even landed a lucrative fight gear deal with Reebok, among other broadcasting deals.
It's every year, I say this to you, every year and everybody else, we take this thing to the next level every year, and this is just another step in the evolution and the process of getting this thing to where we want to get it.
The UFC's business was booming, but somewhere along the lines, the Fertittas lost interest, selling the promotion to Endeavor for a staggering $4 billion, even though they had higher bids. While the Fertitta brothers left after bagging a humongous amount of profit, they left Dana in a dark place. But owing to his remarkable performance over the years, the new owners let him keep his place. Fast forward 7 years, the UFC is a $10 billion entity, which has been generating more than $1 billion in revenue annually for the past few years. The promotion has monopolized the sport of MMA to the point that no competition is strong competition anymore.
There's no other fight promotion on the planet that can rival the UFC in boxing or mixed martial arts.
There is the PFL and then there is one championship, but the difference in revenues and overall numbers is chalk and cheese. From a promotion struggling with criticism and bankruptcy to an organization oozing with confidence and resources by the day, the UFC has come a long way. And its merger with the WWE, which took place there in 2023, further establishes it as an invincible force in the world of MMA. The question is, how much more can Dana White and his Musketeers achieve? Where do you guys see the UFC in the next 10 years? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you all in the next one.